Well, this is going to be interesting. I was asking Jaden because he had mentioned that we've lately gotten a flood of hate mail, not real mail, but why that would be. And then, of course, it came to him and came to me. That's because big MAGA influencers made videos about yours truly to respond to my appearance on Tim Pool. Now, I've already done extensive coverage of the couple appearances there. I'm not going to do that again so much. But instead, I found the criticisms of me by these MAGA figures kind of entertaining. And so I want to show that to you and respond to them. And the first one will be Benny Johnson, who's really big. He has 2.7 million YouTube subscribers. And I know he's also on Rumble and stuff. And he just spews out some of the most vile stuff on the World Wide Web. And here he titled this segment, Tim Pool ends career of sniveling lib live. That sniveling lib apparently is me. Guts him like a fish, left shaking in stunned silence. I already went over him tweeting that, which prompted this video that I posted, which was Trump supporter makes me cry, shake, and ends my career, which was based off of him saying that's what happened. But then when you watch, I mean, I don't have to specify this, especially if you watch that segment, you can go watch it. Again, you just saw the title, but that's obviously not what happens. And we might go over that just very quickly when we watch Benny Johnson's coverage of it. But I get that people clickbait. We've clickbaited. I get it. I just don't understand why you would post something like this when what took place is so antithetical to the argument your title made and what you'll hear him say here. But according to Benny Johnson, you'll hear him reiterate this in a second, my career's over. You all can tell me in the comments if you agree that my career's over. While you're watching this, if you appreciate this channel as opposed to Benny Johnson's and some of these others, you can click the subscribe button to show your support. But listen to his introduction to this segment. Oh, here. Apologies. It's muted.
Happened in the literal sense on Tim Pool's show, where a young man named Luke Beasley tried to dunk on Tim and ended up destroying his career. Now, Luke Beasley, I don't know who this person is. He looks exactly like kind of your average, typical soy boy, cuck, leftist, right? Very weak jaws, these people. Very, very weak jaw, very thin, translucent individuals. They all are. I don't know if they clone them or what, but they all look exactly the same. Progressive political commentator. Okay, Luke Beasley show on YouTube. Let's go ahead and check. What is the Luke Beasley show on YouTube?
Isn't this kind of fun? I don't know. I haven't seen these folks go over my channel before, but he gives me credit for my subscriber count.
Look like here. Luke Beasley has 1 million subs. Okay, so he's clearly Luke Beasley has something going on here, but it's all over now. It's all done because Tim Pool ended it. This is the difference between somebody who's actually thought through their positions and can defend them, and somebody who is just LARPing, right, and gaining an audience. I don't know, based on vibes. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, so he, as well as a lot of people who send in hate mail, will say that I'm a cuck, which is I don't know, it's a weird criticism, you know? Because I understand that term is just loosely thrown around now, but cuck in literal terms means, and pardon my language here, but that I am into sexually watching my partner have sex with someone else while I'm in the room masturbating. Okay, that's what he's saying I am. I happen not to be into that, but also it's just a strange thing that MAGA always speculates on the sexual proclivities with that insult of their opponents. I never have the urge to say Benny Johnson is blank and use some description of his sexual behavior. But I don't know. Different strokes for different folks, pardon the pun. But if you go forward to the clip, what I'm convinced of is that he didn't actually watch the clip. He just saw like the first few minutes where I was letting Tim Pool just sort of yell his face off, and then I was going to wait until he was done and then give my reaction. But remember what actually happened after he stopped shouting.
Cited his speech. My dude, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's fine. I get it. We try to be polite. We try to be nice. But there are so many young liberals who sit here and say, the corporate press told me that these people are bad and the machine state government has decreed it by pen. So I don't care what crime they committed. I don't care what the jury said. I don't care who was on the jury. Enrique Tarrio, who was not there, should be in prison for 2 decades. Tell me this now. Why is Enrique Tarrio in prison?
Yeah, so they uncovered with him his plot to overthrow the government.
Enrique Tarrio, is it?
Yeah, and his organization.
What plot? Who's they? Give me some
prosecutors.
Give me some fucking data. Stop squinting at me and saying the prosecutors did a thing. You didn't know. You didn't read it. You didn't read the court papers. All you know is the fascist machine state told you he should be in prison, and you're saying yes to them. Tell me why. Give me the data.
I understand that laws on the books have been there for a long time that I agree with, that if it's proven that you had a plan and you wanted to act on it, and then days after.
What's the proof?
The proof is
say the proof.
By prosecutors.
Say it.
Communications between.
What communications? What did he say? What did he do?
Is this serious?
Are you going to tell me why you think Enrique Tarrio should be in prison for 20 years, or are you going to say the government decreed it?
I just explained to you.
So the government said so. Is that it?
It's usually law enforcement, which I guess is part of the government.
Government said so?
Yep.
So you can't say why.
That uncovers evidence of communications, a memo that he crafted and sent to his organization.
Saying what?
That detailed each institution of government that they were going to try to overthrow. Then just days later, his organization is at the Capitol.
I don't think we can even pull up Enrique Tarrio.
I'm not quite sure that.
So then, and you can see my full coverage in that segment titled, me shaking and crying, which was what it was described as, by Benny Johnson. You can see the full 3.5 minute or something rant that he had that led up to that. And then he asks about the premise of his argument being that this is all, I guess, being fabricated or something against the January 6th defendants. And I obviously explained that, no, it's pretty damning when they find a bunch of communications, the actual documentation of your plot to overthrow the government, and then have video evidence of your organization doing so. And again, the messages of you directing them each step of the way. Pretty bad why he was convicted of seditious conspiracy, which I agree with that outcome. And after yelling, and I was just sort of confused, as I realized about halfway through the rant that it was probably to create a clip that the right wing could react to, and miss that at the end of it, he then goes on to Google, again, as I covered in the full thing, what I'm talking about, pulls up the Enrique Tarrio case and realizes that that's exactly what happened, but then just goes, well, I don't think that it was proven enough. So the only thing I can believe is that Benny Johnson didn't watch until the end when I explained that Tim Pool was wrong. I just don't happen to shout. So maybe it's that I should shout back and then he would hear what I'm saying. But me trying to calmly explain it is not enough for the right-wingers to believe it happened. But what's so interesting, and this is sort of a microcosm of the American online macrocosm, just as one of my suggested videos next to this Benny Johnson video is David Pakman's coverage of it, which is Lone Liberal destroys Tim Pool and friends in brutal 5v1 debate. And he plays more clips than just the one that you saw there. But a very different portrayal of the exact same back and forth. And then just to go forward to, let's see here, because I think this is an important moment after he had been Googling for a while.
He comes in the bigger picture.
So are you going to at all acknowledge that you just blew up over something that I was absolutely citing fairly?
I don't think you cited it fairly.
I think people should be prosecuted for engaging in plans to overthrow our government. That's kind of
that's a very loose definition of plans to overthrow the government.
Y'all don't seem to be that informed.
Wait, Luke, respectfully, I cover a lot of protests and riots.
And then it goes from there. But what they had just looked into was the very plot that I was talking about that led to the conviction of Enrique Tarrio and was a pretty ironclad case. So that there, again, I think that, let me pull it up one more time, but that split screen, as you can see here, of Benny Johnson describing that back and forth as my career being ended, David Pakman describing it as Tim Pool being destroyed, and again, other interactions that built that broader narrative. And the actual clip that was cited by Benny Johnson was one where after yelling, Tim had to Google the thing that I brought up to him, or he brought it to me, but then I explained was the reason why this January 6th defendant was in prison. Very, very fascinating. And I guess this is how many of the MAGA folks get misled. But then you have someone called The Quartering, and it says Tim Pool goes nuclear and humiliates smug woke leftist Luke Beasley live on Timcast IRL. And we won't look at a bunch of clips other than the ones that will be played very quickly by these individuals. But again, I find even just the intros to these segments interesting, like from The Quartering.
PCs. Now let's take a little look at Luke Beasley. Congratulations on reaching 1 million subscribers.
Thank you. They all bring that up. Very sweet of them.
It's such a young age and apparently such a low IQ. But what's interesting is you see, I remember this phase of my thumbnails. He clearly uses Canva and he only has access to the yellow arrow and yellow circle. Nearly every single one of his thumbnails have a yellow circle and a yellow arrow in it. But he is a fake intellectual. I am not, for example, I admit, I talk very openly. I am not like a super duper intelligent geopolitical person. People watch me for generalized takes or, pop culture, technology, anti-censorship takes, stuff like that. I try not to wade into waters that, would be above my breathing area. This kid does it all the time and is wild. It's interesting because he literally copies, he uses the exact same titling and thumbnails as people like Tim and myself use and all this stuff.
What? Didn't he just say he doesn't do his thumbnails like me? Because I use too much yellow? I do love when people criticize that. It's like, clearly, we've just noticed that helps. So we do. That's so unimportant. Just click on the dang video and then see if you like what's in it. That's what I'm most concerned with, not if you're upset with an arrow or a circle. And I don't want... Let me see this guy's deal. Let me just take a look-see here for a second. As you can tell, our thumbnails look so similar. Not really The Quartering, but I definitely am not basing my thumbnail and title game off of The Quartering. But Jaden does not use Canva, I will say, but that would be a fine thing to use. I don't have any problem with it. And then also, it's an interesting thing to admit that you're not really that knowledgeable about politics as you're about to play a clip that either is 3 minutes and 50 something seconds where my response is cut out of it, where I disprove what Tim Pool had just ranted about, or it's the full thing, and maybe because of your self-proclaimed lack of political knowledge, you don't realize that had just taken place in the full clip. I don't know. I'm not trying to be insulting. That sounded really like I was being insulting, but who knows? Then you have this next person named Vince Dow, excuse me. And let's see what he had to say.
You've taken the Otto von Bismarck approach of it is better that 10 innocent people suffer than one guilty person escape.
No.
Yeah. Well, okay, you have.
No,
right.
I haven't.
Look at his face. He looks completely clueless right now. Out of his league, buddy. But again, I want to reiterate here, that kind of boils down to the core of their argument. They don't care about the facts. They don't care if so-and-so on J6 actually did anything wrong. They've been treated fairly by the justice system. No, you question the election. You disagreed with the results of 2020. Throw you in jail for
It's just a crazy thing. Like whenever I say this person doesn't know what they're talking about, they don't have the facts on their side, they're just kind of making noise out of their face. If I ever make such a comment, I'm going to make sure that the thing that I'm talking about, I'm 100% correct on. Because otherwise that comes off really, really embarrassing. So a lot of the people making these criticisms, they missed it. They missed it completely. The Enrique Tarrio thing, apparently Tim Pool didn't know what was happening with that, so he had to Google it and found out what I was saying. How do you perceive that as, clearly this sniveling lib doesn't know what he's talking about? No, he got caught. He got caught. Seditious conspiracy. Proven in a court of law. Videos. Communications. Encrypted chat messages. And a document they were dumb enough to make and keep that documented their whole plot. And proof of all the Proud Boys' engagement in it. But I don't know what I'm talking about. Apparently. It's them who knows, despite being the ones who had to Google the dang thing to find out I was right. That's why we keep coming back to this. I can't get over it because there has never been a single moment since I've been doing this show where as much of the right wing was talking about me as happened over the course of like a week after that. And so I keep coming back to it because I think it demonstrates a lot of what's wrong with their media literacy, where they will watch something and they'll watch maybe like a Trump in an interview and say, wow, Trump destroyed that interview, when the interview would prove them wrong. Or they'll watch the exchange that I had and go, lib got destroyed, just because of the tone of the voice of the guy that I was talking to. And that's why some of these MAGA figures are able to prevail among these followers. It's because, like I said, maybe there's just not the media literacy there, as sirens are going off outside of the office, to even get what took place before they give their take. Okay, if you don't like my stances, fine, but at least know what actually happened in the dang conversation. Then more from Vince now. Oh.
We try to be polite, we try to be nice, but there are so many young liberals who sit.
No, he came in there so unbelievably smug. And yeah, as you're seeing, look at his freaking face. He has nothing to say. This kid has no clue what he's talking about. But
look at his face. You paused when I was blinking. What are we supposed to read on my face?
And I think the most telling part is, yeah, they don't care, right? They don't care if you're guilty. They don't care what you really did because you supported Trump, because you thought the 2020 election was this or whatever, or you didn't want to take the COVID vaccine or whatever. That's how they believe you should be treated because you're not on their side. But by the way, let's lecture for 4 years about the importance of respecting our democratic norms and civility and all this nonsense. It is ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous that Luke thinks he can both say it's bad to try to violently overthrow a free and fair election and also that he respects democracy. Those things don't go together. That he thinks the leader of a militia that got caught planning and then participating in a plot to overthrow the government in the interest of preventing the peaceful transfer of power. It's crazy he would say that is something that should be prosecuted and also that democracy is good. So inconsistent. But look at his face. Look at that liberal's face. Look at that cuck's face. I bet that he sits in a chair a few feet away from his bed while someone rails his partner. That's just... Look, put it back on screen, Jaden. Look at that jawline. Look at the transparency of his... I forgot what that point was. You can just look at him. It's funny that Benny Johnson made the point that my followers must just be going off of vibes, when that's what so much of their argument is. Look at him. That's a vibe-based argument. Let's see.
Think Enrique Tarrio should be in prison for 20 years, or are you going to say the government decreed it?
I just explained to you.
So the government said so. Is that it?
Yeah, so anyways, there you have it. He has no clue what he's talking about, and we could dunk on him for...
He edited out of it. That wasn't even organic. Look at this. Because he got to the part where no way. Jaden, you can't hear him, but he's laughing behind the curtain.
Say the government decreed it.
I just explained to you.
So the government said so. Is that it?
Yeah, so anyways, there you have it.
And then a cut. He cuts away from where I respond and explain what Enrique Tarrio did. No! Vince, I thought better of you.
He has no clue what he's talking about, and we could dunk on him for it. Props to Tim Pool for doing so, okay, as you will so often find. They don't know. But Again, I think
I explained it in the part you didn't show. Oh, that's crazy. And then again, it was Tim who had to Google it, meaning he didn't know. I didn't even know we were talking about January 6th. They don't tell you the topics ahead of time, but I just, off the top of my head, remember the Enrique Tarrio case, and specifically the 1776 returns document where they outline the plot to overthrow the government. And it was then Tim who went, wait, what? Plot to overthrow the... Let me look that up. So anyways, he doesn't know what he's talking about. That was a crazy cutaway. And then just as a fun, this does not relate to the Tim appearance, but just as a fun little flashback in terms of the other hate videos that have been made on me, because we're going through and seeing what my haters have to say. Here is the guy who made the video, the cuckening. The cuckening. Again, this cuck thing. My gosh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Here I present to you Luke Beasley, the kid with the weakest, frailest, limp arm. His arm hangs sideways, just bending straight down to the ground. His wrist can't lock, it just hangs, this limp-wristed little cuck. Anyways, if I was in front of you, you would not say these things because you would be afraid that I would twist your arm. Look at...
I love that. I love the assertion that if I were in front of him, I wouldn't say the political points that I say on the show, because I'm hiding behind the fact that I'm not actually talking to these people to their faces. When I literally started my career saying these things to their faces. That's how I started, was going out and talking to people, Trump supporters, as you might remember. And again, how much, I don't want to say this in a weird way. How much of their brain is filled with thoughts about the appearance, as you heard, jaw related things, weak jaw, or wrist, or even the sexual stuff. Thoughts that are so unrelated to the political points we're making. I know occasionally when Rick Scott, let me specify, Rick Scott face images. Everyone just give me a second. Hold up. I understand that occasionally I'll reference the fact that Rick Scott has a particular photo that floats around that gives me the heebie-jeebies. It does. Okay, I go, oh my gosh. He seems like he's playing a character in a movie about a serial killer. But I don't make that the premise of my argument. I definitely don't reference it a ton. But you saw the consistency of throughout these videos. So many of them had a take on my look or me being, I've said it too many times, you understand, or other things. And I'll say it again, but if you have to go there, you're probably wrong on your argument. Because if your argument is strong enough, you can just keep it on that. It's the same way I feel about that debate. Just because I, after watching it back, realized there were a lot of times you couldn't hear what I was saying because I was being shouted over, I'll probably raise my voice next time in a setting like that, just so that my words get through. But on principle, I feel like I don't need to, if my argument's strong enough, I can just explain it in this tone of voice. I don't need to shout it at you. I'll just explain it like this. And then you'll hear it and you can process it and go, oh, that was a good argument. But no, apparently that's not what is the most compelling thing to people, but the theatrics are for a lot of folks. And it's unfortunate. But there are the hate videos, my haters talking about me. And you can let me know if you agree or disagree with the criticism. When you see me, is your... Nah. Do those thoughts also come to your mind? Is that your first criticism of me or not? And give me your take on this photograph because it's an important one. Make sure to click the join button below.